Welcome to the All Ball Show, presented by Abstract Sports, where we bring sports back to life. I'm your host, Kyle Clay 2K. In the All Ball Show, we focus on basketball-only content, and to tip things off, I'm covering every single team in the NBA from worst to best in each conference. I'm going to look at their rosters and discuss how I think they're going to perform this upcoming season. Up next in our lineup is the number 14 seed from the Western Conference last year, the Memphis Grizzlies. So the Memphis Grizzlies are based out of Memphis, Tennessee, obviously. The Grizzlies compete in the Southwest Division of the Western Conference, and the Grizzlies play their home games at FedEx Forum. The team is owned by Robert Pera. Head coach is J.B. Bickerstaff, and let's see, history, they were the Vancouver Grizzlies before. I remember that when I was a kid, when Jason Williams used to play for them in those old school Vancouver Grizzly uniforms with like the illustrated bear coming across the front of it. Pretty sweet and nostalgic. But they were the Vancouver Grizzlies from 95 to 2001 before they moved to Memphis, where they currently reside. Their mascot is Grizz. As you would imagine, he's a bear. And that's about as far as it goes with the quick facts from Wikipedia. This is a team that has struggled in the Western Conference as well, but they have had some success in trying to get to the playoffs or getting there and then getting bounced out, mostly because of injuries, whether it was Marc Gasol going down or Mike Conley being out for a majority of the season. Their team just hasn't been able to compete against guys like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and the other Western teams at the top like James Harden with the Rockets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. So this is a team that has had a record last year of 22-60, only one win more than the Phoenix Suns. They played 18-34 in conference, 10-31 at home, and they had a terrible record, the worst record in the NBA last season on the road, of 6-35. You're a really good team when location does not matter. There are certain teams like the Warriors, Rockets, and Thunder, and teams like that who go on the road and they just have enough talent that the road culture and the road atmosphere just doesn't bother them at all. The Memphis Grizzlies are not that team. 6-35 is extremely bad. 10-31 at home is even worse. Oh man, that is just bad. That also doesn't seem to add up. Let's see, 66 plus 16. Yeah, that's 82. Okay. It says their record is 22-60, but they only have 16 wins. I am confused. They're 16-31 at home and 6-35 on the road. So let's take a look at the roster and all the different players they had on their team last season. Wow, that looks like a really long list. It is 24 players. That is, I think, the most we've seen of any team is 24 players on the roster in a given year, according to last season anyway. But just to name off some guys on this list, this is just the alphabetical list of players to let you know if any of these guys spark your memory. Dylan Brooks, Marshawn Brooks, Mario Chalmers, that's one name, who played for the Heat with LeBron James. Mike Conley, one of their star players. Deonta Davis, James Ennis, Tyreek Evans, Marc Gasol, another star player, a very talented Spaniard. J. Michael Green, Andrew Harrison, Mike Henry, Vince Hunter, Bryce Johnson, Omari Johnson, Jarrell Martin, Ben McLemore, Chandler Parsons, a three-point specialist, Ivan Rabb. I think Parsons may have been traded at some point in the season, by the way. Xavier Wrathan-Mays, Wayne Selden, Kobe Simmons, Marquise Teague, Bryante Weber, Brandon Wright. So a lot of the players on that team I do not recognize. The main guys I know would be Mike Conley, Marc Gasol, and a couple of these sort of sound familiar, but Ben McLemore, Chandler Parsons. From there, and Mario Chalmers. That's it. That's really the only guys I know from the Memphis Grizzlies. Obviously, I'm not the end-all, be-all. I'm not the knowledge guy completely. I'm just rattling off facts from the screen here. I can't watch all 30 teams in the NBA in a given year, but I do know big names when they come up. And, when there's not a lot of big names that come out of a certain team, that's just sort of your earmark for how talented a team is, I guess you can say. Maybe that's a closed-minded way of thinking for me, where, I only pay attention to the players who hit the media. But, that's what helps you notice them. And if they're not standing out in any particular way, and I'm not seeking out a way to watch a Memphis Grizzlies game, which I'm definitely not. They're one of the worst teams. What's entertaining about that? Says the Lakers fan who endured 3 terrible seasons, including the 17-win season. Gross. I get it. So as for per game totals for the Memphis Grizzlies last year, they had, let's see, I want to see how many games Mike Conley played. So Mike Conley was gone most of the season, and he is probably one of the most underrated players in the league. He is a floor general. When he's on the floor, he directs traffic, he calls plays, and helps put his team in a position to win with his leadership abilities in all senses of the word. But he only played 12 games. So I don't remember what injury it was, but he was out for obviously the majority of the season, therefore hurting the outcome of their record and because he just couldn't be there. But in his time while he was there for the season, he had 17 points a game. They had about, 6 players who were in double-digit averaging points. And then you have, the highest scoring player in points per game was Marshawn Brooks. And that's a guy that I don't really know off the top of my head. Highest scoring player is Marc Gasol. Tyreke Evans, he's been around for a while, had 1,000 points. Dylan Brooks at 800. JaMychal Green, 500. Jarrell Martin, 500, 500, 500, 400. So one thing that I will say about a team that has suffered injuries like this, you can probably lump the Boston Celtics into this category, is that they're performing on, lacking a limb, if you will. They don't have their full firepower with them, and so it lets their guys who wouldn't normally be getting a lot of minutes come off the bench and get some good experience as rookies or young players in the league who maybe got called up from the G League, something like that. And so when their star player comes back, they can have a better idea of who fits better with that mold, and they can also just be a more developed team as a whole because they all have more experience together. So I think that's one positive thing about an injury. If there is anything positive about an injury, I imagine that personal struggle is very real. But most players tend to bounce out of that, including Kobe or Gordon Hayward. And we have yet to see how he's going to perform, but I'm sure he's going to be just fine. Same with Mike Conley. Looking forward to a season from him. Still, actually, a lot more scoring going on in the West compared to the East, if I remember right. 2 players in quadruple digits. Obviously, points aren't everything, but it's all about how it translates to a win column, and it's not always numbers. Let's take a look at their potential, or what's supposed to be their current roster for this upcoming season. It always starts out a little bit smaller. Obviously, it's cut down to a certain number, and then they add and remove players throughout the year. That's why it gets down to be 24. So this is a little bit shorter. They still have Marc Gasol, Chandler Parsons, Andrew Harrison, Garrett Temple, Mike Conley, Wayne Selden, Dylan Brooks, Ivan Rabb, JaMychal Green, Marshawn Brooks, Jaren Jackson Jr., Triple J's, Kyle Anderson, Omri Caspi. He's a very talented forward. I've heard that name before. Javon Carter, Yuta Watanabe, Shelvin Mack, Markel Crawford, and DJ Stevens. So it seems like they have a pretty tight-knit group. Curious to see how they perform this season. I have a family member who is a big Memphis Grizzlies fan. He's my cousin's husband. He was born and raised in that area, and he's actually met Chandler Parsons before. So whenever the Grizzlies are playing, I have tried to keep my eyes open a little bit. Last year, really all I noticed was just a lot of struggle. I tried not to call him out on it too much, but Steven, if you're watching, I wish your Grizzlies luck, all right? They're still in a tough conference. Maybe the Grizzlies should move to the Eastern Conference where they might stand a little more of a chance. Let's just put it that way. And that does it for this episode of the All Ball Show presented by Abstract Sports. How do you think the Grizzlies are going to perform? Did I say anything weird or stupid in this last episode? Well, please let me know down in the comments below. But be sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed this and subscribe if you want to get more basketball content throughout the season. I'm your host, Kyle Clay 2K. I'll see you in the next one.